Please be seated. Good evening and welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Tom Bennett, the Mayor. In June 2017, 72 of our residents tragically lost their lives in the fire at Grenfell Tower. I ask every member of the Council to pay our deepest and continuing respects in the conventional manner by marking the moment with 72 seconds silence. Would everyone please stand? Thank you. Item 1. The minutes of the previous meeting have been circulated. Are they agreed as a correct record? Item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary or any other significant interest in any item being considered at tonight's meeting? No. Item 3, special announcements by the Mayor. So I have 3. So firstly, we have nominations for the Mayor's Awards are now open. So it's the 26th year of the Mayor's Awards, and as I'm sure you all know, celebrate the achievements of the fantastic individuals, groups and organisations in our borough who make an outstanding contribution to local life. And we have 3 categories: individual, young achiever and voluntary and community sector organisations. So if you'd like to make a nomination, please do get in contact with the Mayor's office. And nominations close at 5 p.m. on the 19th of January. My second announcement, so I'd like to thank the Year 4 pupils and teachers at Bousfield Primary School for participating in the mayoral Christmas card competition. I was delighted to visit the school recently to talk about the role of the borough, the role of the mayor, and announce the winners of the competition. So many congratulations to Natalia for her Kensington Christmas Lights card, and to Charles for his Chelsea Pensioner card, and special mentions also to Nathalia and Isla as runners-up. Sorry to spoil the card design you're about to receive. And then finally, we've got the Mayor's Carol service on 10th of December, which is at St Mary Abbots at 6 p.m. You're all very welcome to attend. Please do invite residents and friends and family as well. All proceeds going to London's Air Ambulance charity. And again, please get in contact with the Mayor's office if you have any questions on that. Right, we now move to item 4, Chief Executive. Are there any apologies for absence or lateness?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have apologies for absence from Councillor Bakhtiar, Councillor Benson, Councillor Lane, Councillor Marshall, Councillor Thaxter and Councillor Fairboven. I've got apologies for lateness from Councillor El Nagi, Councillor Hargreaves, Councillor McVeigh, Councillor Husband, Councillor Pascal, Councillor Will and Councillor Knight. Also, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to provide a very brief update to members on the cyber incident that happened last week.
Please do.
So, members of the Council, as you'll be aware, unfortunately, last Monday, so Monday of last week, the Council suffered a cyber attack, which also affected Westminster Council and Hammersmith and Fulham Council, with whom we share some services and some infrastructure. I just wanted to update on both the emergency arrangements and on what this means for our residents at this time. So, by lunchtime on Monday, we had our cybersecurity specialists on site working with our digital team. We had taken our systems offline to both protect the Council's data and systems and also to protect other systems. We set up on that same day the emergency response arrangements under the Civil Contingencies Act, and those are still running. So we have a Gold Command in place and the Borough Emergency Command Centre is operating. On that same day, we notified the Metropolitan Police, the National Cyber Security Centre and the Information Commissioner's Office were notified the following day. You will also have seen that we have discovered that some data has been copied and we have notified our residents of that and also the Information Commissioner's Office, and we're working through that urgently to identify if we need to do anything further. I know that you will be receiving requests and questions from residents, and so on your tables today is our frequently asked questions, which are going out to residents in the post over the next couple of days, and it answers 42 of the questions that we've had to date, and the kinds of things we know that residents will be interested in. The work to make sure that our systems are fully safe and able to bring back into full operation continues and is following best practice steps. The Gold Command arrangements will continue at least until this time next week. Our resident-facing services are operating. Every service has an operation and is contactable by residents. The bins are being collected, our libraries are open, our family centres, our housing officers. We do, however, know that it is harder to get through to us on the phone and that the website functionality is not there, although we do have a website which it is safe to visit. In recognition of this, our customer centre was open last weekend on Saturday and Sunday, and it will be open this coming weekend on Saturday and Sunday as well, and we will review that. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We now move on to item 5, public speaking. So we have 7 residents this evening who have registered to address the council, and I pass my thanks to all of you for doing so. We have 4 speakers speaking on the same theme, and then 3 other speakers. So the way we'll do it this evening is that the first 4 speakers will all get their chance sequentially to address the council. We'll then allow both the majority group and the main opposition group to respond for up to 5 minutes each, and then we'll move on to the following 3 questions, which will all get individual responses as they're on different themes. For the benefit of members and those watching, can I ask all speakers this evening to start your 5 minutes by saying who you are, and if you're speaking on your own behalf or on behalf of a group. And that would be very helpful, thank you. So we'll start first with Ms. Sophia Suleiman. Would you please address the council?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Sophia Suleiman. I'm a resident of the borough. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and also of the Palestinian people today. So my question will be concentrating on the directly complicit firms that we are currently investing our pension fund into as the RBKC, forgive me. So I'd like to focus specifically on roughly the 4% of the pension portfolio that is invested in companies that have been directly linked to the occupation and violence in Palestine. These are companies like Elbit Systems, Caterpillar, Lockheed Martin, and major Israeli banks funding illegal settlements, known to be funding illegal settlements. I emphasize known because these are not ambiguous cases. These are documented by UN bodies and independent international human rights organizations like the ICJ. Continuing to hold these companies contradicts not only our ethical commitments as a council and our committee, but also as borough residents. We are exposing the fund to unnecessary long-term risk, and I hope with the example of Russia and Ukraine, where we have removed ourselves from funds that are complicit in the genocide or in the war in Ukraine, that we will do a similar, if not same level of devotion shown to the Palestinians in boycotting these Israeli funds. Other local authority funds have already divested from similar companies without any loss of performance. Most recently, the Tower Hamlets, for example. On January 22nd of this year, they announced completely that they will derive themselves and divest from all Israeli funds to avoid any complicity in the genocide that is taking place in Palestine. My question is therefore simple to the committee and to its members. Will the RBKC commit to divesting from this specific, clearly identified set of complicit firms? And if it will not, what is the justification it can give to us, its residents, and to the Palestinian people? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon. Mr. Chris Soames-Charlton, please address the council.
Good evening. I speak as a local resident, someone with extensive experience on the ground in Gaza and the West Bank, and with Palestinian family in the Galilee in what is now Israel. I'm also a former fund manager. When we look at the huge death toll in Gaza and the pogroms in the West Bank, we cannot hide behind the contention that nothing we do here will change the situation. On the contrary, how can peace ever be achieved if institutions like RBKC go on trading as if nothing untoward is going on? The inaction of successive governments and local councils in the UK has facilitated the slide in Israeli politics as Zionism moves to its logical endgame, namely the eradication of the Palestinian Arab presence across all of historical Palestine. Israel exerts the most intrusive and invasive control over the Palestinian population, not just in the occupied territories, but among the quarter of the population in Israel, which is Palestinian. Right now, they are cowed in fear, unable to speak. By withdrawing investments in companies involved in the occupation and settlement structure, RBKC would be showing genuine leadership. It would also show that the council is listening to its residents and taxpayers. As right-thinking people, many with links across the region, we are appalled at the destruction of life. We can't believe our leaders lack a moral compass or the courage to act. And don't think that institutional investors in global stock markets won't themselves react to reduce holdings in companies profiting from the elimination of the indigenous people of Palestine, thereby pushing share prices downward to the detriment of the RBKC pension fund. Why would you not wish to protect the council's pension fund from such moral and financial risks?
Thank you, Mr. Soames-Charlton. Mr. Dominic Michetta, please address the council.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dominic Michetta. I'm a research scientist in a drug discovery biotechnology company. I have been a borough resident for the last 5 years, and I'm speaking on my own behalf. I want to raise the long-term financial risks associated with investing in companies linked to military supply chains, illegal settlements, and mass surveillance. These risks are escalating. Sanctions, lawsuits, reputational damage, and major global divestment campaigns. When a company faces these headwinds, it can become a stranded asset. Responsible investors recognize this and act early to protect beneficiaries. My question for you is, how is the committee assessing these long-term financial risks, and how will it ensure that RBKC pension members are not exposed to companies that could become liabilities in the years ahead? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michetta. And I'm told the fourth speaker on this theme isn't here, so I'll now hand over to Councillor Kamali. Would you like to respond for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you to the residents which have come this evening. Forgive me, because my answer was expecting to answer all four, so perhaps I will reference elements of the fourth question that we didn't get to hear, but it is printed in front of us. So, firstly, I do want to mention that we are shocked and concerned about the incidents that have just been described related to the racial abuse that was experienced by one of our residents, and I would encourage them to go directly to the police and report it immediately, as soon as possible. The community safety team is also on hand to provide further assistance to residents who may need help in accessing specialist support and navigating referral pathways to other services, and that the council does have CCTV cameras in Ladbroke Grove, and most of the wards also have CCTV coverage in the surrounding area, and we've continued to expand our network in support with the police and in partnership with them. With regard to the settlement scheme for Palestinians, again, I'm aware that that question was not asked, but I'm going to answer it. RBKC acts with the national framework set out by the government, who are responsible for immigration and asylum policy. At present, there is no government-led scheme equivalent to the Homes for Ukraine programme for the Council to act upon. But turning to the questions that were asked this evening with regards to the RBKC pension fund, the main function, as required in law, is to act in the best financial interests of its beneficiaries. The fund's primary objective is to ensure pensions are paid in full and on time, whilst minimising future funding pressures. Decisions on divestment must therefore be based on a clear and robust assessment of financial risk, and the fund follows the local government pension scheme, the LGPS, investment regulations, as well as its own RBKC's investment strategy statement and guidance from the LGPS advisory board. RBKC itself does not hold direct investments in the companies that were referred to in the first question, and any exposure is through large, pooled global equity funds. Under the LGPS rules, councils cannot direct individual stock selection within these pooled funds, and therefore cannot unilaterally exclude specific companies. The fund does, however, assess whether its managers are appropriately incorporating environmental, social, and governance factor risks into their investment decisions, and whether engagement activity is effectively addressing any concerns identified by the UN or other international institutions. Where managers fail to demonstrate adequate stewardship, the fund can escalate through the London Civ and, if necessary, renew the ongoing suitability of the mandate. We will continue to monitor material ESG risks and to challenge our managers where evidence indicates heightened financial or reputational risk. And I've spoken to the chairman of the pension fund, and he's happy to go through this once again. We also recognise that there are different viewpoints held by both residents and council members. However, the pension fund must operate within a strict legal framework. Our statutory duty is to safeguard the retirement benefits of scheme members by acting in their best financial interests as required by the law and the regulations. Thank you.
Councillor Ali, would you like to respond for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I first of all thank Sophia, Chris, Dominic, and Farzana, who's not here for this evening. Just to answer the questions, I think what needs to be looked at is what's been happening, and it's not just with this council. As residents, you're all here for this evening as residents to share with your feelings, and we have to respond to your feelings as elected officials. So let me give you the result, the truth about what we've done in my capacity, in my Labour group of councillors. When the war started in October, and then it started a long time ago, obviously, we know the history of it, we're not going back to it, but the reason it started in October, I, as a Labour group of leader of the Labour group, have spoken at this council so many times, not just about the excessive killing in Gaza, but also in the West Bank. And we have been calling for ceasefire. We have been calling people to be given opportunity to live peace side by side. And that is what everyone should be calling for at this council as a unity, not just as individuals or group members. To the point specifically that you've raised about groups that be supporting, whether it's a genocide or whether it's eradication of one group, Palestinian, for example, or another group for Jewish communities, we should not be allowed at this council, elected councillors, to support, or companies to invest that are supporting what's been clearly identified or alleged to be killing for others. But that's not the point. The point for us to address is how do we invest our money and how do we invest in the pensions. And I think it's directly required, as the lead member mentioned, that we specifically, although he said we cannot specifically pick and choose of how to invest for the stock market, but we can actually initially, in principle, choose the right companies to make sure that they are not involved of crimes against humanity. And to the point specifically you have mentioned about the long term, we as a Labour group, we actually went against our own temporary recommendations to be invested in money and to make sure the council is not benefiting from that. So imagine if we do not allow the council to benefit from temporary recommendation which is supporting our local communities, how can we in conscience allow a company or anyone else that are causing difficulties for other human beings? So to the point, we definitely should look into it, and thank you very much for coming this evening and bringing it to our attention for this matter. You are the residents, you can hold us accountable, and please do come back each and every time you see something which is not right that the council should be spending or should be investing, as we will never, ever, in the right mind, supporting human beings killing for each other, and that is not the right thing to do. And we will always, always call peace and prosperity, whether it's Israel and Palestine, whether it's everywhere around the world, whether it's in Ukraine, and that's the right thing to do. We should never, ever be advocating or be part of human beings killing other human beings. And we hope to see both Israelis and the Palestine that you hear for this evening for peace, two solution, two governments side by side, living with solution and having a peace. But ultimately, and this is my final point, we should never allow conflicts that are happening, whether it's far away or not, whether it's having impact on us, to drag into our local residents. And this, the safety and security and the safety of our residents is a top priority for all of us, and I'm sure we all agree that we should be working towards collectively peace at home and peace everywhere else. Thank you very much once again for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. May El-Gwindi, please address the council.
Yes, good evening. My name is May El-Gwindi. I am a resident of the borough, and I am speaking on my own behalf. I am, as a resident and taxpayer, concerned about the council's fiduciary duties. The Pension Committee has invested approximately 22%. This is some £330 million in the Baillie Gifford Global Alpha Growth Fund. This is a fund that has underperformed for years. And in addition to this, it includes companies that are complicit in war crimes and in genocide and in illegal occupation. So when a fund is both financially weak and unethical, continuing to hold it exposes pensioners to unnecessary and avoidable losses. Fiduciary duty requires prudence, not loyalty to an underperforming fund manager. So my question is, how will continuing to invest in the Baillie Gifford Global Alpha Fund, despite its poor performance, serve the pension fund's best long-term interest? I'm sorry, the microphone keeps going out. And my question to the council is, will you ask the Pension Committee to reconsider its allocation in line with your duty to safeguard returns for pensioners? Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry about those issues with the microphone. Councillor Kamali, please respond for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. Again, forgive me for reading from a piece of paper. These are quite technical matters, and we wanted to make sure that everything is correct. So the Investment Committee does review all investment mandates regularly, including the Baillie Gifford Global Alpha Fund. As part of its fiduciary duty, the committee assesses a number of issues, but one being the long-term performance versus objectives, the manager's investment process and team stability, whether underperformance is cyclical or structural, how the strategy contributes to overall portfolio diversification, and the availability of suitable alternatives within the London CIV pooling structure. Recent reviews included scrutiny of Baillie Gifford's attribution, risk management and forward-looking expectations. Where the committee concludes that a mandate no longer meets the fund's long-term requirements, it is prepared to consider reallocation in line with its responsibilities, and as such, the Investment Committee terminated Baillie Gifford's mandate on 3rd of November 2025. So hopefully that answers that question. Thank you.
Councillor Lowry, please speak for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you very much for your question, Ms. El-Gawindi. I'm a member of the Investment Committee. Following the period of underperformance of Baillie Gifford's fund over the whole COVID period, the committee made the decision last year to call Baillie Gifford's investment manager, Spencer Adair, to the committee to answer our concerns and questions. Throughout the time I've sat on the Investment Committee, the seriousness by which we hold managers to the benchmarks we subscribe cannot be overstated. Indeed, I was on the committee when we decided to terminate our relationship with Purford after a significant period of weakness. The underperformance of Baillie Gifford relative to global equity indices was primarily driven by the Alpha Growth strategy's overexposure to early-stage disruptors during COVID and underperformance from its Chinese equity holdings. Numerous commitments were made to us on the back of weaker performance, including enhanced portfolio construction tools, improving granularity, enhanced risk controls to mitigate a repeat of the late 21 overexposure to the disruptors. This year, we initially witnessed a recovery in performance in the strategy. Indeed, by mid-year, they were 2% ahead of the benchmark, with Q2 being 5% ahead of the benchmark. However, due to the mandate from the government, carried over from the previous government, to pool all our funds with the London CIV, an instruction which I, alongside the majority of Investment Committee members, believe to be ill-advised, at its last meeting 4 weeks ago, the Investment Committee concluded that the 30-year relationship with Baillie Gifford should come to an end. The committee made the decision to transition the portfolio into BlackRock's passive fund, which is where our remaining equity stake rests. Passive management is also less expensive, as you'll know, and cost efficiencies always come into account with our decisions. During the 30 years of relationship with Baillie Gifford, they added around £300 million worth of value, net of fees, to the pension fund, and that's worth bearing in mind. And now, on a personal note, because I also work in asset management, as a firm itself, Baillie Gifford have been amongst the top of their league throughout their existence. The long-term tenure of their investment staff, including the relationship manager who had initially pitched the deal to this council in 1994 and who was still here 25 years later, is testament to their good culture as a firm. There's plenty of firms that one can go after in the finance sphere. I've seen it all, but Baillie Gifford is not one of them.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Ms. El-Gawindi. Mr. David Keir, please address the Council.
David Keir, I'm speaking as a concerned Kensington resident, and I also want to address the issue of the RBKC pension fund investment strategy with a slightly different take on the other speakers. Okay, RBKC is part of the London Collective Investment Vehicle, which manages billions of pounds on behalf of London boroughs. What this borough and its tri-borough partners do is therefore influential. Several London councils have already called for stronger ethical investment frameworks at the CIV level. Now, we know this council can make ethical decisions because after the terrible tragedy of Grenfell, the council withdrew the investments in companies that had supplied materials during the construction of Grenfell Tower. So RBKC, therefore, in our view, has an opportunity to show some leadership by advocating for pooled funds that do not invest in companies implicated in violations of international law, human rights abuses, and genocide. So this is not only ethical, it's prudent risk management, as others have noted. So my question is RBKC willing to take a leadership role within the London CIV and with its tri-borough partners in promoting an ethical investment framework? And if not, why not? And I prefer not to have these bland statements that Councillor Kamali has just been making. Thank you very much. We've heard those several times already.
Councillor Kamali, please respond for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm sorry you find them bland, but I've got to make sure that
we were hoping to see somebody from the committee.
I believe members of the committee are here this evening.
No, I think the format is that a member of the leadership team
in any case,
responds.
Let me answer this, and then you can always follow up via email. So, as a participating borough, RBKC works collaboratively within the London Civ and other London authorities. The CIV already maintains a responsible investment policy covering stewardship, voting, ESG integration, and climate-related reporting. Establishing a London-wide ethical investment framework would require agreement across all 32 member boroughs and the need to comply with LGPS regulations, which emphasise fiduciary duty and financial materiality tests for any exclusion policy. RBKC is open to contributing constructively to discussions within the CIV on how responsible investment expectations can continue to evolve, provided that framework remains consistent with our legal responsibilities and the need to protect long-term returns for beneficiaries. Further reports on this issue are due at the next Investment Committee meeting, which I welcome you to attend. Thank you.
Councillor Simmons, would you like to speak for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Keir, for coming with your question. As the Grenfell Council, matters of ethics, propriety and a commitment to do no harm should, by now, be very much at the forefront of RBKC's guiding principles in all of its actions and activities. Its ongoing programme of change and transformation should include moving from being an immoral council to a moral one, including in areas where RBKC is part of shared or pooled arrangements, such as the London CIV. And the question you have asked pertains to that imperative. As you probably know, the London CIV has a commitment to responsible investment, believing correctly, in my opinion, that this is not only a moral imperative, but an economic necessity. It's a signatory of the UN-backed Principles for Responsible Investment. Its current priorities appear to be climate change, diversity and inclusion, tax and cost transparency, and biodiversity. So, in relation to your question specifically about breaches of international law, it does appear that this aspect could be intensified as a priority. And I agree there is a leadership role for RBKC in this, whether they see it tonight or not. The London CIV recognises that managing the impacts of its investments requires collaboration and action from all stakeholders. Its investment approach is informed by client policies and priorities. So this is clearly an area where RBKC can have a positive impact. It appears the CIV would actually welcome such input, and in a timely twist, RBKC itself is finally beginning to realise the economic necessity of moral and ethical considerations. This being the case, I can't think of any good reason for this council and its leadership team not to do as you propose, and I am encouraged by the lead member's remark there that RBKC is open to contributing to these discussions with the London CIV. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Keir. Mr. Luke White-Thompson has asked me to read this question on his behalf. RBKC holds substantial exposure to big tech companies such as Amazon, Google, Microsoft and Palantir. What concrete engagement strategies, such as timelines, audit requirements and escalation procedures, will the committee implement to ensure that these companies' technologies are not used in ways that facilitate human rights abuses? You have mentioned the use of external consultants to guide on engagement, but can you show us evidence of where their work has led to any positive outcomes? Councillor Kamali, please respond for up to 2 minutes.
I fear we're going back and forth, Mr. Mayor. Sorry that Luke wasn't able to attend. I do have another answer for him here, which again, forgive the sort of slightly monotonous way in which I'm responding to them, but I wanted to make sure that everything is said correctly and accurately. So, the fund's exposure to technology companies arises through pooled global equity funds, where individual stock selection is the responsibility of the stock index and the investment managers. We cannot instruct managers to divest from specific holdings within those pooled structures. However, the fund requires managers to demonstrate robust engagement on issues including data privacy, artificial intelligence governance, human rights risks, and supply chain transparency. The London CIV also performs centralised stewardship on behalf of the member funds. Some of the outcomes we review include voting records on shareholder resolutions, evidence of direct dialogue with company boards, published stewardship case studies, escalation steps such as collaborative engagement or support for resolutions, demanding enhanced audit or disclosure. And where fund managers cannot demonstrate effective stewardship, we challenge them through the fund's membership of the Local Authority Pension Fund Forum, the LAPFF, and the London CIV, and incorporate this into our assessment of mandate suitability. Thank you.
Councillor Lowry, please speak for up to 2 minutes.
This council absolutely has the right to take a view on whether it is ethical to have an association with an organisation or firm that causes harm. Indeed, there is precedent for divestment on these grounds, because after Grenfell, the Council took the view that having an association with companies negatively associated with the Grenfell Tower tragedy is unacceptable from an ESG standpoint, and the Investment Committee acted on that view to instruct our investment managers to divest from its exposure to Kingspan, Celotex, Arconic, and Ryden by creating a separate segregated structure within BlackRock. It is the responsibility of this council, and the leadership team absolutely must take a view on its association with any big tech company, not limited to the list provided by the questionnaire, which has been found to have contributed to human rights abuses, including but not limited to the ongoing genocides in Gaza and the Sudan. The Investment Committee itself is charged with managing money on behalf of the pension fund, but ethical judgments are the responsibility of this council chamber, and the Investment Committee must then act upon these. It is important to note that from next year, the Investment Committee will lose significant autonomy, including the ability to select and negotiate fees bilaterally with our investment managers. This responsibility will transfer to the London CIV. At that point, scrutiny of the CIV's choices, competence and ethics must be an acute concern and focus of ours. I wish to conclude this debate and public speaking section by stating this Council must not be complicit directly or indirectly with genocide. As an asset class, I strongly believe that the decision to maintain overwhelming exposure in global equities is the right one, and indeed this is the only reason we have performed above our peers to achieve our over 200% funding rate, the highest of any local government pension scheme in the country. Our exceptional funding position, meaning we can more than meet all our obligations, has allowed us to take on more volatility and be dynamic with our investment decisions.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all our speakers who joined us this evening. We now move on to item 6. Do members have any petitions to present? No? In which case we move on to item 7. Councillor Addenbrooke, you have a request under Standing Orders?
Mr Mayor, in accordance with Standing Order 42, I wish to move that Standing Order 30 be suspended this evening to allow Councillors Campbell and Ali up to 8 minutes each for their speeches.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Is that agreed? I now invite the Leader of the Council to address the meeting for up to 8 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And there is only one place I can start tonight. As the Chief Executive outlined at the start of the meeting, last week this Council, alongside Westminster City Council and the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, was the victim of a large cyber attack. Before I talk about what that means for our residents and what our plan is for the next stage of recovery, I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to our staff. Yeah. Our teams have stepped up and faced this challenge head-on, working literally day and night. Our IT team has been fighting back, investigating this cause and assessing the impact. I'm incredibly proud of the way that our staff has responded, because it shows the very best of this council, and it reminds me of why this place is so special. Thank you. Yes, I think a big clap for our staff. Thank you. As we recover, we will have setbacks, because this is a complex issue, but people are working hard to overcome challenges and keep this council running as well as it possibly can. Our main aims will be to support residents who need us, fix things as quickly as possible, and be transparent with the public on where we are on this recovery journey. We have written, to everybody in the borough, and our communications will continually be updated as we know more. Please do keep checking our website for the very latest updates. We have a plan, but there is a long way to go on this. Our advisors are telling us to prepare for weeks of disruption, but in some cases, Mr. Mayor, it could be months. Being given the news that we were under attack is what no leader wants to hear. But like any public body, there was always that possibility. To counter this threat, we had invested significantly in our digital data and technology services and had up-to-date cyber defense systems. And that system worked well, mitigating the damage. Part of the response to an attack is to shut off systems, taking them offline ourselves and away from the reach of the attacker. Because we believe the attack started on KNC infrastructure, we are likely to be hit the hardest, and it will take us longer to recover as a result. But, Mr. Mayor, there are 3 things I can announce tonight. 1, through our gold, silver and bronze structures, we are establishing a cyber recovery team with staff from across the council. It will include staff in IT, experts in data and in resilience, as well as senior staff leading on details of departmental recovery. 2, our efforts are supported by some of the best cybersecurity experts in the UK. We have brought in the NCC Group to advise and support us. They have huge experience helping the British Library recover from a cyber attack and many other local authorities and universities who have been hit previously. 3, I want to say a big thank you to staff from Westminster and H&F and other London boroughs who have been supporting us with IT teams working together to fix issues. When the time is right, my intention will be to establish a review into what happened and work with the Information Commissioner's Office, the National Cybersecurity Centre, alongside the leaders of Westminster and Hammersmith and Fulham, to understand how our joint infrastructure was impacted and if there's anything that we can do jointly in future to protect ourselves even more than we did on this occasion. Mr. Mayor, we are certain that we're following the right steps. Our resilience plans were well tested, and we were very effectively able to stand up a gold, silver and bronze structure, ensuring that we had operational grip of the incident from the very beginning. We activated our business continuity procedures with teams using planned workarounds for systems that were down. But many of the key services our residents rely on, such as our twice-weekly bin collections, our parks, our street cleaning, they are continuing as before. And our ambition is to keep as much on track as possible so that residents notice little difference or only suffer minor delays. The essential functions of this council will continue. With the business continuity procedures working well, the key question on my mind was whether any data had been copied. Mr. Mayor, I am absolutely committed to the duty of candour this council adopted. Trust is hard won and easily lost, and I felt that how we responded publicly to this incident was a real test of the culture of this institution and of transparency, compassion and care that I had sought to foster since I became leader, and indeed since the Grenfell tragedy. I was clear with the team that if there had been a data breach, we needed to disclose it as soon as possible. And thanks to their round-the-clock work, we were able to do this on Friday last week and give guidance to residents as well as advice. We confirmed a breach had occurred, but that we still had access to the information that had been copied. We were honest and upfront. We outlined we did not know whether the data copied contains any personal or financial details that might impact residents, customers, or indeed service users, and that we couldn't rule out the possibility of it ending up in the public domain. Mr. Mayor, as a resident myself, I can completely understand that many will be concerned by this, and that is why we wanted to get the information out as soon as possible, and working with the National Cybersecurity Centre, we have provided residents with advice on how to protect themselves. It's also why we're working as quickly as possible to understand what data has been copied and why. Mr. Mayor, I don't have those answers tonight. Responding to these incidents takes time, and it's right that we let the professionals get on with their jobs. But let me be crystal clear. This remains an incredibly serious incident. We expect disruption to continue for at least 2 weeks, and the ramifications to rumble on for months after that. We will continue to tackle this incident with honesty, professionalism, and absolute determination. Our priority is to protect our residents, restore our systems, and ensure that services remain resilient. We will keep members and the public updated. Mr. Mayor, this is a difficult moment, but with the dedication of our staff, the patience of our residents, and the support of everyone in this chamber, we will come through it stronger. Thank you.
I now invite Councillor Ali to respond for up to 8 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you have heard from the Chief Executive and from the Leader of the Council, our Council has been under cyber attack since the beginning of last week. As you've heard before, and I'm happy to tell you as I have a meeting with the Chief Executive, the attack obviously has impacted several services, including a planning meeting that I was to attend yesterday evening. That could not take place because of the information we could not find so that we can carry on with the council services. Residents have contacted us, and we told who could not pay for their rent and other essential access to other essential services. We've assured them that, and we have also have a meeting with the Chief Executive that their inquiries will be taken into account and none will be penalized for the faults which are not on their own. So rest assured, definitely the residents will continue to get the service, and those who cannot make rent or any other services in time, they will not be given penalties due to the shortcomings of the attack. As the council leader mentioned, the data has been copied and removed, but we hope that we will be in a position to recover most of the data and nothing will be in the black market, as they say. The council continues to be working closely with the Westminster City Council and Hammersmith and Fulham, as well as the Metropolitan Police, the national government, and the National Cybersecurity Agency and other agencies to get the full control of our IT, and we will get there continuously supporting our residents. And I do share with the Leader of the Council that this is not an easy situation. We have heard about before, but when it actually happens to you under the leader of the Labour or under the group or under as a councillor, it really, really impacts everyone. And I share that with the leader of the council that we will hopefully get back to normality. I want to thank the officers who are dealing with this incident, Mr. Mayor, and also specifically the Chief Executive for updating me as the leader of the opposition and keeping me in touch, and hopefully to meet her next week for getting more details on the ongoing cyber attack on the council. Moving on, Mr. Mayor, I want to update about other issues about the residents have spoken to us relating to our council and how the council is run. Council Gashouse development, Council Gasworks development concerns about the residents. As you may well aware of, after Grenfell, the council leadership and all councillors have pledged to listen to the residents, yet residents feel that they have been continuously ignored, particularly regarding the Council Gasworks development approved by the Conservative majority councillors. We, the Labour group of councillors, do support house building in the borough, and the council gaswork was the important opportunity to showcase that this can be done, which benefiting most of our residents who are indeed in need of housing. But the approved scheme, Mr. Mayor, has actually provided inadequate level of social, affordable and key worker homes. It fails to meet both the council's policies and as well as GLA's requirements for 35 affordable homes, 35% of affordable housing, as well as the need for greater need for RBKC, specifically in particular, since we have over 3,000 households waiting in the waiting list. This is unacceptable for a development at this scale to deliver fewer than 20% of social housing, as well as key workers and affordable homes. The shortfall of this development undermines the efforts to tackle the homelessness, as well as rising housing insecurity in our borough. The other point that I want to deal with, Mr. Mayor, or at least to get to the members aware of, is the fairer funding review and the inequality in our borough. Mr. Mayor, the fairer funding review absolutely aims to retain the local authorities, funding and a formula that reflects the needs, the cost, and the local resources. As the leader of the opposition and the leader of the Labour group, I have been continuously lobbying the government and not to see RBKC as a wealthy borough able to absorb cuts, but also to see as a Grenfell borough, and a borough with one of the most unequal places in the UK. I want to thank the local MPs, Joe Powell for Kensington Bayswater, and as well as Chelsea and Fulham MP for their support to lobbying the government. Inequality in our borough has been worsening since 2021 due to the cost of living pressures as well as long-standing housing challenges. The ONS index for multi-profession shows that the poorest wards in our borough, including Goulburn as well as Nottingdale, which remains the bottom 10th of nationally, if you look into the poorest and the most deprived wards in the UK. And that should never be acceptable in a borough in our size and our economy. Moving forward, Mr. Mayor, this has not improved since 2029. So looking back, what are the impacts of the RBKC funding? Obviously, our borough, Kensington and Chelsea, is one of the boroughs that have most affected by the fairer funding. The review projected about £82 million reduction from the central government for the next 5 years. That counts about £16 million per year. Although this is a significant amount for a council to lose, however, 81% of our council income comes from the council tax and business rates. So Kensington and Chelsea, with the right leadership of a Labour Party, if we look into hopefully next year, 2026, we can navigate the upcoming difficulties, and hopefully our residents will make the right decision to support at a local Labour group so that we can balance the budget. Mr. Mayor, moving forward, the RBKC is trying to get the 108.6 million pounds from the council tax, which is 49%. The council business rates, including the revenue support grants, which is 71.1 million pounds, which counts as a 32%, as well as the government grants, which is social care and new homes bonuses and other bonuses, which counts about 26.6 million pounds, which is 12% of the income that we can generate. Moving forward, we also have an additional grants from 8.2, which is 2%, as well as other collective fund, which can be adjusted to £2 million, which is 2%. And the council is planning to raise council tax next year for 5%, which from 2026 onwards. But also, for the first time, the council is thinking about bringing on the premium second homes council tax, which is a thing that we have suggested last year, but the majority group have decided not to listen to us. But they come to their senses and they will have to raise the money that we needed to continue to provide the services for our communities. Moving forward, Mr. Mayor, savings accounted to the council's upcoming budget in the 2026 will definitely look into the £22 million savings, but that's £6 million more than actually suggested from the 5-year plan that we have to meet. So this council, with the Conservative majority, again planning to propose austerity proposed budget for next year, which we, the Labour group, will definitely oppose. But a bit of a good note to finish with, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to see the Labour government has introduced a budget that's really fair and that's helping everyone. And the Labour government, which obviously is supporting the businesses, as well as, for the first time, removing child poverty policies for removing the child, helping the child poverty, which obviously, if they interrupt me, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you will indulge, give me a few more seconds to include what I'm saying. But the child poverty, for the first time, is scrubbing unfair child policy benefit cap, which has been introduced by the previous Conservative government. I am pleased that this Labour government is now removing, and 1,200 children in Kensington and Chelsea will be benefiting from that removal, as well as over 450,000 children for removing out of poverty in the next the next decade. This government is also delivering to support the cost of living crisis with £150 getting off bills.
Conclude, please,
I will conclude. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Freezing prescription charges, as well as the rail funding, and raising the real living wage, which benefits 200,000 people across London, which includes Kensington and Chelsea. It's about time to set a budget that works for all, not just for the 1% for our communities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. In accordance with standing orders, I rule that the order of business shall be as published. Item 9. There are 2 reports from Leadership Team. The first is to approve the revised Statement of Licensing Policy 2026 to 2031, and the second to note the correction to Appendix 2 in the Treasury Outturn 2024-25 report. I now invite Councillor Campbell to propose the report's reception and Councillor Thalasitas to second.
I should like to propose the report's reception.
And I'll second.
Would Councillor Campbell like to speak? No, thank you. And Councillor Thalasitas, I assume you wouldn't like to speak either, or would you?
Yeah, I can
please,
speak.
Yeah, please do. Please.
So licensing policy is something that we renew every few years. This is the first update to our licensing policy since COVID, in which time lots has changed. I think the first thing to do is to thank officers for the work that they've done putting this all together, as well as Janet, who's been a real champion for that tough balance that we always have to strike in this area between resident and amenity with the kind of pro-business council that we also want to be, and also to Jem and Sof, our respective predecessors, who have helped drive this work forward. Over the past 4 or 5 years, as I say, a lot has changed in the borough. I think we've got many more licensed premises, or certainly outdoor dining spaces, than we did previously. We've got lots of amazing spaces, vibrant neighbourhoods like Chelsea Green, Bute Street, Sloane Square, St Helens Gardens, Kensington Park Road, all popping up. I think that's a testament to how this council is taking a really proactive approach to shape our public spaces, bring people together, democratise public spaces too, and make sure that the way that we're managing our licensed premises works for this borough. We are really lucky. This is an iconic destination as well as a really special community. And part of our role when we come to develop these licensing policies is to look at that. And at the same time as saying that, I'm pleased that we're able to reassure those people who might have concerns with things like our midnight policy, as well as a kind of more robust approach to safety with Ask Angela, which I know colleagues have talked about at previous meetings as well. So I definitely commend the work that's taken place, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Evans.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thalasides, for your kind words. I would like to thank Fiona Johnson and her colleagues for spending her entire summer working on the licensing policy. I would also like to thank the leadership team for giving a lot of time and going over it and supporting it. We always balance the needs of residents with business, and both are an integral part of life in this borough. The licensing policy very much has 4 objectives. I would just like to briefly repeat them: the protection of children from harm, the prevention of crime, public safety, and the prevention of nuisance. To that end, I would like to say that The committee, we have an excellent committee from both sides of the chamber, and we all work together to support the residents and the community. Licensing is a very much part of Kensington and Chelsea. Many people moved here for the nightlife, and the borough has responded as well with the challenges of COVID, the economic challenges that have come up, and the challenges that have been created for business by the new government. So I would like to say that another contribution of licensing is to help with mental health. People have been able to drink outside. Many people aren't drinking alcohol anymore, but they are still enjoying our outside spaces. We are conscious as well that in this policy, we have recommended for hotels to be aware of child vulnerability, because anyone could bring any child into a hotel and they must be responsible for that. And on top of that, the need for children is a prime concern of the licensing policy in terms of vulnerability and exposure. So I'd like to thank you again. Our policy is fluid, it is growing, it rises to challenges, and it's a breathing policy that responds to the world as it is today. Thank you, everyone, for your support.
Would any other member wish to speak? Councillor Nuhr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say a few words. I've been on this committee for the last 2 years. And I just want to begin with by recognizing the hard work of our council staff, starting from licensing, the governance team, and also our legal advice, which we could not do a job without them. I also want to mention Councillor Janet. Her leadership has been fantastic for the last couple of years. Her advice and leadership. The policy is not just a routine update, it is a legal requirement under the Licensing Act 2003. And it comes at a time when responsibilities of licensing authorities are changing quickly. The revised policy includes an important new duties such as Martin's Law, which provides safety and preparedness in public places. It also strengthens our expectations around safeguarding, including better protection for women and girls, and clear responsibilities for staff to reduce harm where it takes place. The policy also reaffirms our commitment of keeping fair balance in the borough. We want a thriving, well-managed hospitality, including nighttime economy. We also must protect our residents from crime, disorder, and public nuisance. This policy supports the responsible business while making clear that public safety and community well-being remains in our priorities. I recommend the revised policies to be approved. Thank you.
Councillor Schmetterling.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say that it's only taken about 5 or 6 or 7 years to get a hotel paragraph into the policy. I think it's great. I realized when I was dealing with I'm on the licensing committee for the general public. I realized that when I had to deal with a hotel in my ward, well, I was attending meetings. I didn't sit on the panel. A hotel with bar attached, but sitting on a panel where there was a bar or drinking establishment with hotel rooms attached, I realized that we needed to do something because there was a lot of controversy. Finally, we got it in, and I would just like to thank everybody concerned. Thank you very much. Only taken us 6-7 years, but we got there in the end.
Councillor Wade.
Much of the policy is good, but I think it's failing to see where the balance between businesses and residents, especially in high-volume areas like Earls Court Road. We have about 22 licensed premises, with some more coming along. We have 27 fast food dependent businesses. We have 2 gaming places. We have 2 adult gaming centres. We have nail bars, salons, and we've only got 3 retail shops that don't have anything to do. Holland and Barrett and Robert Dyers and a plumbing shop. So I think there's a question of, when we view policy, I think we have to take into consideration the concerns of residents and how it directly impacts on their lives. And I've suggested, and I know that it was turned down, the concept of a cumulative impact zone. I think that when you have a high density of these types of businesses, which also bring in bike-dependent businesses, it's important that we have an overview, because you can spend all the money you like on Earls Court, but unless you actually address the elephant in the room, which is the fact that it's an unpleasant street because people don't feel safe, this will have failed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other member like to speak? No. In which case, Councillor Campbell, would you like to sum up?
I don't think it's necessary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So I put to the Chamber, does Council agree to adopt the recommendations as stated in the report? The recommendations are adopted. Item 10. There is also a report from the Administration Committee. This report asks Council to agree. Amendment to Council's Constitution, Charter for Public Participation. Would Councillor Addenbrooke formally propose the report's reception and Councillor Taylor-Smith second?
I wish to propose, Mr. Mayor.
I'm happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Addenbrooke, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, this new Charter for Public Participation reflects this Council's commitment to become a more transparent and listening council following the Grenfell tragedy. We pledged to review the Charter 5 years on, a promise that also reflects our commitment in the Grenfell Inquiry report, ensuring residents' voices are heard and valued. The review has taken place over many months, with over 600 people taking part, which I think shows the strength of feeling residents have about this piece of work. Residents told us that they want more meaningful participation in council decisions. We need to communicate more clearly, honestly, and more regularly. And we need to create more opportunities for residents to engage with councillors and officers face to face, and for co-design and co-production where we can. Mr. Mayor, this charter was designed with and for residents. We have listened and considered what residents have said to us, and this new charter reflects our commitment to truly involve residents in our decision-making processes where possible. Some of the changes include broader and deeper engagement. The new commitments clarify when the Council will consult, engage, co-design and co-produce, and what residents can expect in return. Prioritise accessibility, locate and remove any barriers, and be more proactive in reaching out to underrepresented groups. Better transparency and feedback. We will be clear and honest about how residents' feedback has shaped the decision-making process. And Mr. Mayor, all of the above will be underpinned by regular review, a commitment to training staff, sharing best practice and lessons learned. We will do this through a resident oversight group to be formed in the new year, so we cannot be accused of marking our own homework. This group will monitor how we are delivering on these promises. If we agree tonight to adopt the updated charter in Part 1 of the Council's constitution. We will be the only council with public participation commitments written into our constitution, and the only one that has co-designed them with our residents. So I want to thank our officers, and more importantly, our hundreds of residents for getting us to this point and making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would Councillor Taylor-Smith like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ware. I'll just take a few moments to talk about it. And this obviously, I'm very pleased to second this. It was something that came to Admin Committee on the 17th of November. And I think it's really important for us to reflect on the journey that we've taken on this, because it was launched 5 years ago following as a direct response to our inquiry commitments, and a testament to the work that over 600 people took part in this. And it really brought home to me, I mean, the whole importance of this journey. It was the citizen panel that I went to a couple of weeks ago, which was attended by over 100 people and a fantastic cross-section of people from our borough. It's often been suggested we don't listen and we don't get out and then talk to people, but I mean all the various committees we go to, the TCC, etc. But this particular one had a really good cross-section of people throughout the borough. And I sat on the table, moved around the tables, and the amount of comments and constructive comments that came from that were very worthwhile for us in terms of incorporating it within our plans and policies. And so I just really want to stress how important it is to have these sort of things going on. So the heart of this charter lays out exactly how local people can influence our council services, and that's very much, again, a thing of seeing that consultation in action. So, and talking to our residents about what their priorities in our budgets should be, I think was incredibly encouraging. So I'm pleased to second this to the council tonight, and again, I want to thank Councillor Addenbrooke for championing this and for everybody else involved. Thank you.
Would any other member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comments are pertaining to the report itself and the process rather than the commitments contained therein. Essentially, I think this is a joke and an insult. A tick-boxing joke for this council's business as usual, and I will tell you why. First of all, the council seems to be trying to assert that the Charter for Public Participation was implemented in any sort of meaningful way. On the contrary, like the Hillsborough Charter and the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny 12 Principles adopted after Grenfell, like all of what full council agreed in July 2017, and indeed like parts of this council's constitution, these things simply go by the wayside, usually within minutes of being adopted. If none of the above were adhered to, if none were enforceable, what makes anyone think that these new commitments will be any different? Will they be worth the paper they are written on? The paper talks about engaging with non-executive councillors and with scrutiny. As a minority councillor and a scrutiny chair, I can say that this essentially consisted of one briefing after the fact. If the council thinks that counts as engagement, then these commitments are already doomed. The report says that there were regular briefings and oversight of the review from the lead member, but not the minority spokesperson for communities. Oh no. So business as usual then. Yes, marking your own homework, dressed up in a pretty bow for the inquiry commitments. So painfully transparent. The council is making commitments to its residents, commitments it is incapable of making, much less honouring, to those same residents' elected representatives, if they happen not to be a member of the majority party. Never mind the Constitution. That was clearly already in the bin in 2017, as one resident pointed out in this very chamber in the first public speaking session, to no avail. Impunity, anyone? Democracy, anyone? If you routinely and casually subvert and disrespect the democratic mandate of your residents, why should they expect you to listen or respect them directly in anything other than name only? This council has an unsavoury history, frequently noted by residents and remarked upon in the inquiry engagement work, of the practice of incentives and reprisals. And yet here we are, explicitly offering incentives. You should know that the practice by this council of selecting favoured residents, showering them with flattery, recognition and favours, and yes, I do mean favours, and privileging their voices above others in exercises such as this is visible to residents. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Your preferred partners, your flavour of the month, the council's darlings, or as some residents have described it, Kim's little friends. To what extent this piece of work was influenced by this practice, we can only guess, and ditto for the resident oversight panel. As for reprisals, I have been in resident panels and working groups where residents have explicitly expressed concern about speaking frankly because the council can mess up your housing, and I have seen that happen. In this continuing climate of fear and favouritism, I do not have confidence in any of this, laudable though the aims may be. So you do you, but I will just tell you this. You're not fooling anyone with this latest piece of claptrap. This latest piece of lip service would not fool Baldrick.
Would other members wish to speak? Councillor Dent-Cote.
Can I sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is, of course, positive that the Council is looking to improve participation with the public, with the loud voices and with the quiet ones. And I appreciate by using different ways of engagement, such as online, in-person, focus groups, etc., they hope to get a better understanding of the frustrations of residents and to regain trust. However, the role of local councillors, as we've just been hearing, in supporting and steering local issues and feeding back as community representatives via scrutiny, etc., barely gets a mention. It's a source of constant frustration, especially for minority party councillors, that in the latest review they are once again completely and utterly sidelined. The role, purpose and experience of North Kent councillors has been barely mentioned. The relationship outlined in the Charter is purely between the council and the residents. We underlined this in 2020. It is now 2025, and despite our best endeavours, numerous conversations with officers via the peer review, etc., our concerns are ignored. We are, as colleagues over this side have mentioned numerous times, treated with disdain. In September 2018, the Kroll report on the secretive purchase of Kensington Chelsea College, Mornington College, stated this, and I quote, KCC and RBKC purposely limited communications with the local community due to what they called the local dynamic. The report quotes the council's lawyers, and I won't name them, saying in May 2016, if a rogue councillor or third party started making noise about RBKC doing deals in secret, they would have to put out a reactive statement. And then, in addition, Labour councillors were not even informed of the sale until the deal had been completed, and I was one of those councillors. Have things improved since 2018? No, I don't think so. In 2020, I commented on the local plan and the Charter with these words, with a polite reminder that council members and officers should be made familiar with the Charter for Public Participation, a suggestion that officers should take training to better understand the role of elected members, which is reflected in the concern of many that some senior officers in particular see themselves as the executive and councillors, particularly minority party councillors, as working for them. The findings of the report also enjoined the Council to embrace the aim of the Council living the Charter's principles. This includes disseminating an understanding about what consultation is and how and when the expectation might be that the Council will consult. Our concerns are probably summed up in this comment. We are told by a number of people that they felt the Council uses the act of strategising and of reviewing and evaluating strategic changes it has made as a proxy for taking meaningful action. Roll forward 5 years and Minority Party councillors in North Ken are still being excluded from deals in secret. I won't embarrass the relevant officers, Mr Mayor, but from a meeting that I had with Councillor Thaxter on Monday, they know who they are and they should know what I'm talking about. We are being deliberately excluded from issues happening within our own ward. Commitments to improve mean nothing if there's no improvement. As I feared, and I quote from the report on the council plan about the reviewing and evaluating strategic changes being a proxy for meaningful action, there is no transparency, honesty is being bypassed, and I cannot see any improvement. I can't decide if officers are overworked, and we know they are, or deliberately obfuscating, or under strict instructions from the leadership team, as in the past, to create another magnificent fudge and deliberately bypass elected councillors. One thing I do know, Mr Mayor, overuse of AI in these documents will not improve performance, and I really do think there was a lot of AI in there. I fear that for some, this policy reviewing and rewriting has become a technocratic exercise, and however many processes and programmes you pursue, it remains a box-ticking exercise. We are not rogue councillors, Mr Mayor, but we are elected members who live in, understand and serve our communities. I feel especially bad for the 600 plus residents getting involved in good faith with a genuine hope of being one step more towards the best council we can be. This review has failed us all, and sadly, it seems we are the best council we can be, and it isn't good enough. Thank you.
Councillor Lowry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly to remind the leadership team that this particular issue is one that's close to the heart of my residents in Goulburn, because one of the most heinous examples of the council violating its own charter occurred in my ward, and that was when the council put together a proposal to build a skyscraper next to Trellick Tower that was primarily going to be comprised of market rent homes, and which have completely changed the architectural and ambience of the area. In the so-called consultation, residents said what they wanted, which was that the council should stick to the agreed SPD, and they wanted a care home. The council completely went against their decision to put together a proposal that was not in keeping with any of the residents who were consulted. What then happened was that the planning inspector had to come in and declare the council's plans illegal. So it's good the council was stopped from doing that, but it took the might of the law. But this is really an example of where the council utterly failed to commit to its own charter. So I have a question to Councillor Taylor-Smith and Councillor Addenbrooke, is how can we ensure that by passing this new charter, things like that won't happen again? And how can we ensure that the Resident Oversight Group, which is a welcome addition, will be comprised of a cross-section of the borough, including residents from North Kensington, who are not members of the Conservative Party, but rather active in the residents' associations, being elected by the residents on their estates, to ensure the council is held to account appropriately.
Councillor Adam.
So, Mr Mayor, can I give a point of order?
Yes,
on
Councillor.
the statement about Trellick Tower, obviously, which was part of my portfolio at the time.
Sorry, Councillor. That's not. I'm afraid I can't allow that.
A correction of
it.
Okay, right, fair enough.
Thank you, Councillor Adam.
Just I would like to ask, because the number strikes me, is it 600 out of how many? Because just Goulburn Road itself, around 8,000 residents. So when you have 600 from the whole borough, it doesn't mean anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other member wish to speak on this item? No, in which case, Councillor Addenbrooke, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And Councillor Adam, just to say 600 is very good for a response to a consultation. 5 years ago, there were 30 responses. So the team worked really well. They consulted with different groups in the borough, and then it went out to consultation, which was open to everybody. And so anybody could have responded. I don't know who responds. So if people say they don't know about it or they weren't listened to, I'm very sorry. But I don't know. You know where I am. You can contact me anytime, and I'm happy to hear from you.
Just
but
as
one thing I would
sorry,
say...
just a minute. As a councillor, I'm being elected for Goldbond.
Councillor, sorry.
Just
no,
a minute.
No, Councillor.
Just we don't look like 200 a week.
Thank you. Councillor Addenbrooke, please continue.
So just picking up on Councillor Simmons' point about the incentives, this actually came from residents who said there was a barrier to a lot of them being involved in working with the council on co-designing things because they had either childcare issues, they had problems getting here, because if you look at the local account group, there's lots of people with disabilities. With all the different consultations we've done in different groups, people have different issues. So that was a direct result of that. And what I would say, that if you think this is creating a climate of fear and favouritism, this needs to be looked into and reported. Absolutely. And please don't make silly faces like that. It's really not. And I think I'm just going to have to remind everybody in this chamber, and I've said it before, we are here to serve our residents, not ourselves. And I think this consultation is a really good example of the council listening to and co-designing the charter with residents. Over 600 people responded, and with the panel that we worked with, there was 16 different residents of a very diverse group, aged 14 to 80, from all across the borough, and some of those people on the panel are some of our most critical residents. So I don't accept what you're saying. I think we should all think about what's been said tonight. We should look at the report, and I hope you will all agree to adopt it. Thank you.
I now put the question to the Chamber. Does Council agree to adopt the recommendations as stated in the report? The recommendations are adopted. Item 11. There is a report from Overview and Scrutiny and Select Committee. Would Councillor Wheel formally propose the report's reception, and Councillor Hudd please second?
I beg to second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wheel, would you like to speak?
We've had a very busy year, as ever, in scrutiny. Sometimes it feels as if we haven't got enough meetings to stuff all the things into that we want to discuss, although I suspect my colleagues won't agree that there aren't enough meetings. I just wanted to pull out some of the highlights of what we've done over the year to show those different ways that we work and the different topics that we've covered. So, for example, in environmental services, we had a public consultation about Lime bikes and the problems that they cause. Health and adult social care, Lucy led the work via a joint working party over a number of councils into the Gordon Hospital. In family and children's services, they took on their statutory duty of safeguarding and checking what we're doing within safeguarding, but using an external expert. And in housing, we saw a really successful working group when a group of councillors get together and look in depth into a project on hostels reporting to us. In OSC, we've concentrated, as ever, on Grenfell, but also this year on transformation, including a working group with officers and, again, an external advisor to steer our conversation and open us to new ideas. I think the themes that have run through our work this year are data, 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 trying to challenge ourselves to really look at underlying data, trying to make sure that everything we do, all the papers that we have, are clear, and I'm very keen on this, as brief as they can be, and concentrating on our performance as a council. I think it's also been a successful year as well as a busy year, and I think that is reflected in the view of the Corporate Peer Challenge, who said that we have, as a council, effective scrutiny arrangements with robust but constructive challenge, and that we have a year-round focus, as we should do, on the budget. They found scrutiny to be influential, with a high level of executive acceptance of its recommendations. And that is all thanks to a number of people, First of all, members of the public who give up their time to engage and take part in our workshops and work groups and give, you know, watching them talk to people from Lyme and so on, really, you know, that's powerful stuff. That's punching straight at them and telling them how it is. And they won't go away from that thinking that's a bunch of politicians getting cross with us. They really see it from the public. I'd like to thank our officers who are very, very dedicated to the concept of scrutiny and rigorous in its defence. I'd like to thank all the members of the committee who come to the committee with some really, really good probing questions, fully in command of their papers. Of course, I want to thank all the chairs who put so much work into making sure that they've got challenging, interesting work programmes and steering their committees. And finally, I'd like to thank the leadership team, who this year I think have accepted 97% of our recommendations, showing a positive working relationship, not that it will ever get too friendly, but thanks to everybody.
Councillor Hudd, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think my colleague has done a sterling job. I can't second that. I second that strongly.
Thank you. Would any other member wish to speak? Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As chair of the Housing and Communities Select Committee, I would just like to say a few words. I would like first to thank the members of the committee for their valuable work over the last year, and a special thanks to my Vice Chair, Councillor Gardner. Thank you also to Councillor Wheel for her excellent expert stewardship of the OSC. And I would like to thank the Scrutiny and Governance officers who work extremely hard and do an amazing job in support of this Council's scrutiny function. On the subject of the Council's scrutiny function, perhaps not so much. The Grenfell Tower inquiry report described scrutiny as the last line of defence that could perhaps have prevented that catastrophe. And the inquiry goes on to highlight some of the reasons why that did not happen. I'm not sure whether the peer review were made aware of this or not. Key among those reasons is the self-evident fact that scrutiny cannot be effective, that is to say, impactful, improving council decision-making, improving outcomes for residents, if it is not in possession of the facts, or if its input, recommendations and advice to the council are disregarded, as in 3% of the case it often takes place. I think in the case of housing and communities, it's a little bit higher than that. Scrutiny in this council is broken still, because scrutiny chairs cannot rely on officers to provide timely, complete and accurate information. I have raised this with OSC, with governance and with Maxine Holdsworth, how it is that I have been misled by multiple senior officers on multiple occasions in a manner that does not appear to be accidental. No explanation has been forthcoming, and no one appears to be particularly bothered about the implications of this for the Council's statutory scrutiny function. I find that disgraceful and appalling. If anyone would like to talk to me about solutions on that point, I am listening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would any other member wish to say this? Councillor Gardner.
I will say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't planning to speak on this, but frankly, I think actually this report is a fundamental showing how we really do take scrutiny seriously in this council. And certainly, I've also seen that it's cross-party, that members of all the parties really take their obligations seriously. And so I actually wanted to personally thank Councillor Wheel, who I believe has probably attended all 32 of the meetings across the council. But I also know she does a lot of work behind the scenes, so sometimes trying to prize out more information for officers, or indeed look at topics that come up through the year. And I believe all our scrutiny chairmen adopt that same open and honest approach. So I'm sorry that Councillor Simmons feels that. Certainly she's been a very fair and open chairman as far as I've been concerned, and I've very much enjoyed working with her. But I would genuinely like to recommend this report, and I feel that it is a very good foundation on which to continue our good work, and we can always improve, and if there are areas of improvement, by all means pass them on. But my personal thanks to Councillor Wheel for all her hard work and leadership, and also to Jackie Hurd in particular, who I think is stunning in what she ferrets around behind the scenes doing and pulling it all together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't planning to speak because I think this report speaks for itself. It's absolutely excellent. And I commend not only the chair of the OSC committee, Councillor Mary Wheel, who is incredible in her dedication and also her forensic ability to pick the papers apart quite often, but to also all councillors who sit on the scrutiny committees and all the chairs of the scrutiny committees. And I do think it's a great example of the council cross-working. I'm only standing up here now because I represent housing, and we are scrutinised by Councillor Simon, and I really do have to take umbrage with what you have said about papers not being given to you fully. We give them to you every 6 weeks in advance. 6 weeks. Sometimes you even see them before I have seen the final version. And I have to stand up here and defend the officers because they do not have a voice in this chamber. And you have made some quite unpleasant comments about the officers. And if you feel this, I'm very happy to sit down with you and to have an honest discussion about this, but you need to show us the evidence and we will then take it from there. Thank you.
Any other member
Chief Executive, she's here tonight.
Would you like to speak on this item? Would any other member like to speak on this item? In which case, I ask Councillor Wheel, would you like to sum up?
After 37 years, I still can't switch on my microphone. It's not impressive. Thank you very much, everybody, for their contributions. Claire, I know, has some concerns, but they are something that we've worked to address, and I think Sophie's has hit the nail on the head in her rebuttal of those concerns. It's important to be specific, but this does underline that data and information and timely data are at the heart of scrutiny, and we absolutely are at the heart of scrutiny, and it's important that at all levels of the council, officers, leadership team and members of the committee work together to make sure that scrutiny does have access to the right information. I'm certain that we do try and do that, but there's always more we can do to make sure our information is as deep and as sensible and as well presented and as timely as possible, and I consider that to be always a work in progress.
Thank you. I now put the question to the Chamber. Does Council agree to adopt the recommendations as stated in the report? The recommendations are adopted. Item 12. We have notice of 5 questions to lead members. Would Councillor Adam please put her question to Councillor McVeigh? Oh. Sorry, yeah, could you turn on your microphone, please? Just bear with us one moment. Yeah, I think I brushed that. Yeah. Just bear with us one moment.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah. Dear Leader of Housing, I would like green. So, okay. I want to draw your urgent attention to the serious issues affecting housing association residents in Goulburn Ward. Residents have repeatedly raised concern, yet the fundamental problem remains unchanged. There is currently no housing officers, no neighborhood officers available for residents to contact. All reports must be made by telephone, but the line rings continuously with no response. Residents are left without any support, guidance, or point of contact for pressing housing issues. The severe and unacceptable conditions include persistent mold, repairs taken up to 6 months, unresolved leaks and safety hazards, mice, rats, pigeons, and fox. No updates, no direct contact for urgent matters or follow-up. The Housing Association has become increasingly unresponsive, and the situation is now entirely unacceptable for our residents. I request an urgent update on the actions being taken to ensure that residents receive the support, communication, and services they are entitled to. Thank you.
Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. I just want to be clear to everyone in the chamber, because the microphone wasn't very clear at the beginning, that Councillor Adams is talking about a social housing provider, not council housing, not us as the landlord. And so I'm still incredibly sorry to hear of the conditions you're talking about. And the housing officers have been working closely with you, and I know it wouldn't be appropriate to talk about the specifics of the cases at the moment. But just to remind everybody that this Thursday, tomorrow, yeah, the week has flown by. We actually have a drop-in session with all our registered providers. So Peabody, Notting Hill Genesis, everybody is coming. And it's running from 5 o'clock till late, so everyone can come in and bring up their concerns and speak specifically about your concerns in your ward with your social housing provider. And just again, from a general council point of view, we do have a team in housing needs that do work very closely, and so we are escalating the problems with that because it really shouldn't be happening. And then also for other issues, then the environment team can also come in as well. And I believe that both of these have been activated. So thank you.
Councillor Adam, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I think this is not enough, because we had this session before, 2 years ago, but believe me, before you said there is something in the chapter you'd like to apply, come and visit some of these houses and see how residents are suffering. And believe me, sometimes, even yesterday, last night, I received an email from elderly women, 83 years old, with a leak for more than 6 months. So what I believe, we need more action and practical action. If there is have no contact, how this resident gonna reach out? I tried myself, sending an emails to Peabody. Up to this moment, nobody replied to me. A resident, within 4 months, she has 12 repairs, and nobody replied to her. And the compensation given, £50. We need action. Believe me, housing association, they're having a hell of issues. We need council to address it, not to have a surgery, because I'm going to invite my resident to come tomorrow with me.
Councillor McVeigh.
Councillor Adam, that's a very good point to get your residents to come tomorrow and to speak direct to the relevant housing association you were talking about, which I do believe the one you're talking about actually has an office right in North Kensington, which I've actually visited. And again, I'm very happy to come and visit with you to see these housing association properties. I visit all our own council properties regularly, and I see that, but I'm very happy to come and visit some housing association properties with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would Councillor Gardner please put her question to Councillor Thalasitas?
Thank you. Could the lead member comment on plans to spend a share of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund grant on Notting Hill Gate?
Thank you, Councillor Gardiner, for the question. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund is a great opportunity for Notting Hill, granted to this borough by the previous Conservative government, and now driven through energetically by our Conservative champions in Camden and Pembridge wards, you being foremost among them. There's lots of really good stuff coming to Notting Hill Gate, in addition to the Cleaner Streets enhancements that we'll bring forward over the coming months, which could see things like street sweepers and new electric buggies coming to Notting Hill Gate to make it that bit more special. I'm pleased that alongside Councillor Taylor-Smith, we've worked with ward councillors and residents to grant things like repaving between Pembridge Road and Pembridge Gardens, bin replacements, because we know that littering can be a problem, planter benches and improved wayfinding. All of these are things that wouldn't be possible without the commitment and the hard work of our councillors in Camden and Pembridge. I want to thank them for all the work that they've been doing, and we will continue to work with residents to try and make Notting Hill Gate the best that it can be.
Councillor Gardiner, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you. I would actually just like an element of confirmation. That's all very positive news, thank you. And I wondered if the lead member could confirm that the trees along Notting Hill Gate are similarly protected by the tree protection order as those in Holland Park Avenue to stop any Labour mayor from forcing their removal for a cycle lane. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Joanna for the question, because a lot of residents across Holland Park Avenue and Notting Hill Gate are concerned. And the reason they're concerned is the Labour Party's plans to put a bike lane on Holland Park Roundabout and Holland Park Avenue. It's something they've been at for many years now, and that's why this Conservative Council has taken action. We have put tree protection orders on every tree across Holland Park Avenue and Notting Hill Gate, and I can confirm that as long as residents do one small thing and vote to keep this council Conservative on the 7th of May, there will never be a threat to the trees on Notting Hill Gate and Holland Park Avenue.
Would Councillor Lowry please put his question to Councillor McVeigh?
Councillor McVeigh, given the unacceptable extended period of time, hundreds of residents of Trellick Tower have been without access to a fully operative lift service this autumn and winter, including periods of time with all lifts inoperable. Can this council please both apologise and clarify? 1. Does each breakdown have the same cause? 2. If so, what is the cause and why does it keep reoccurring? 3. If the breakdowns have different causes, what are they? 4. In either scenario, what is being done to mitigate? And 5. What will be done to prevent the repeated, frequent problems with the lifts longingly? Thank you.
Councillor Mouvet.
Thank you, Councillor Lowry. And firstly, yes, I would absolutely like to apologise to residents, your residents in, well, all of our residents in Trellick Tower for the lifts. I mean, it is an absolute nightmare when a lift goes. Anyone who's been in that situation knows that. Trellick has 3 lifts, and they're some of the most used lifts in the whole borough, as you can imagine, for the height of the tower. The other ones are in the World's End estate. So they are used an incredible amount. So in order to your specific 4 questions, I have quite technical answers to them now. The main one is, no, the breakdown is not the same cause for all of them. And I've got all sorts of stuff, which I can probably send you in writing about various kind of drive trips and things, which is probably not relevant to everybody in the chamber here. But we are in the process of replacing lifts throughout the borough, and on a lot of estates that's coming through right now, and these are the plans for Trellick as well. And I've also asked the team to review our lift maintenance contract and to make sure that it is actually as effective and as efficient as it can be. So that is something that we're very keen to resolve and to make sure that the residents are going to give us the best service for our residents. So there are things happening, but I'm really sorry that it has broken down. And I've been reading all the emails, and I apologise to the Trellick residents, to Keith, to the RA, and to everyone who's been in touch.
Councillor Lorry, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you. It's very welcome to hear just now that you've committed to a review of the lifts throughout the borough. Do you have any more details of this, including perhaps a time frame or how it's going to be done? And will you commit to working with the Trelleg Tower Residents Associations and indeed other residents associations of estates in my ward which have also suffered lift breakdowns to get to the root cause and cooperate with them and be responsive in good time?
Yes, absolutely, we'll commit to that. In terms of the specifics for each estate, the programme is different. I'm actually meeting Wales End Estate to talk about this in January. It's so bizarre because when you put in I've now found out quite a lot about lifts. When you put in a new lift, there's all sorts of kind of closed protocols which the lift manufacturer wants to keep to be the kind of maintenance contract. We're trying to kind of open all that up. So it's quite complex, but very happy to sit down with you and our lift team to talk about this in more detail.
Thank you. Would Councillor Hammond kindly present Councillor Lane's question to Councillor Kamali on his behalf?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to substitute for my friend Councillor Lane, who cannot be here tonight. His question applies equally to my ward and indeed to every one of the 18 wards in the borough, to the lead member for Finance, Digital and Efficiency. And the question is this: following the government's budget, a number of residents will now have to pay mansion tax. However, I think they would be more accepting of this if the revenue raised went directly to their local services. Therefore, could the lead member confirm how much the RBKC will retain of this new property tax?
Councillor Kamali.
Mr. Mayor, thank you to Councillor Wayne and to Councillor Hammond for bringing this. I'm sure many of our residents across the borough went to bed on Tuesday night living in two-bedroom flats, small townhouses, indeed even in council houses, only to find when they woke up on Wednesday morning that they now lived in mansions. This was something I don't think any of our residents were really planning on having to pay for as they mined their pennies going into a difficult winter. One of the many taxes that this Labour government brought forward in this budget, in one of their tax and giveaway budgets, was the new mansion tax, something that they had trailed for many days, many weeks before the actual budget, amending it just to make sure that the Prime Minister and some of his colleagues wouldn't be eligible for paying it. So, having had a lesson on the council finances from the Leader of the Opposition, it's clear that he and Rachel Reeves both had the same maths tutor. But it doesn't take a maths tutor to explain this number. Sadly, our residents will have £0 to show for the money that they will be paying in property taxes. The council still faces a 40% cut in its budget, a budget cut that the Labour group opposite are happy that they're lobbying against. I'd rather they simply didn't implement it in the first place. But sadly, the answer is zero. We will see not a single penny of this new tax. It will be given away by Rachel Reeves to try and keep her seat on the front bench to all of her colleagues on the back benches.
Mr. Mayor,
this is an unacceptable use of our taxpayers' money, and it's disappointing to see that once again the Labour government want to tax our residents, but have nothing to show for it.
Do you have a point of order, Councillor Lorry?
Understanding Order 29, would the... Would the lead member...
I'm asking him what his point of order is, Councillor. Councillor Lowry, what is the point of order, please?
Zen. Okay.
Thank you.
Under Standing Order 29, will the lead member use his discretion to give way to a question?
Mr. Mayor, I believe this is the portion of the evening which is questions to the lead member, so if I gave way, I don't know quite who would answer.
Mr. Mayor,
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I require a supplementary question before anybody else gets in.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, Mr.
Councillor
Mayor.
Hammond, please proceed with your follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very grateful and slightly regret the introduction, stepping on my prerogative to ask the first supplementary of the lead member. I was very grateful for the lead member's answer, but somewhat disappointed by the content, although not surprised having read the budget. Does he agree that this is unfair not only on the borough, but also on local government generally, that this new property tax, a supplement on council tax, is going to central government and not coming to local government? Does he further agree that it's unfair on our residents, many of whom are asset rich and cash poor? And does he agree that this is a further unfairness heaped on our residents after the so-called fair funding formula is introduced, which is anything but fair in dropping something like £82 million out of our budget? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kamali.
Absolutely. This is deeply unfair. This is punitive for our residents. They are not considering that many of those people living in very high-value properties simply don't have the means to pay this tax. They're talking about consulting upon it, but for a very great number of our residents, this will give them huge amounts of uncertainty over the next few months and weeks whilst they work up how exactly some of these people will have this tax delayed or deferred. We really cannot accept people that are living in these homes having to go into a winter where if they will struggle to make the payment on this tax, they may well be struggling to pay some of the other cost of living issues that they will be living with. This is an unacceptable way to raise revenue, not least because it takes away the local tax raising revenue of a council, and it is the complete thin end of the wedge. There is no reason to suspect that this Labour government will not be back next year asking to double, treble, quadruple the level of taxation on our residents. The only way to stop it is to make sure that these people are no longer in power by the time it's implemented. Thank you.
Would Councillor Mackover please put his question to Councillor Thalasitis?
Thank you. Local residents in Queensgate ward are pleased to see new street tree planting over the last few weeks. Could the lead member please provide an update on plans to improve the Gloucester Road North street scene?
Thank you, Councillor Mackover. And can I pay tribute to you and your colleagues, Councillor Whedon-Sands and Councillor Lane. I can't think of any more dedicated champions for Queensgate Ward than the three of you. And it's been a pleasure working with you on improvements to Gloucester Road North, which I hope to bring forward in the new year. On your points about trees, this council committed to planting 400 over this electoral term. We've already cleared 500 and we're going for even more, which is great news. And Gloucester Road North, we hope to consult on plans in the new year in January and to bring it forward as part of the budget setting process for the next year. The scheme's likely to improve wider pavements, new feature paving, street trees, and many other such improvements, and I look forward to seeing what residents in Queensgate think.
Councillor Mackover, no follow-up? No. Okay, excellent. We now move on to item 13, and this is matters of local concern raised under Standing Order 11. I've been notified of 5 members who wish to raise such matters. Councillor Jeddett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I have a backpack, so forgive me if I don't stand today. I am very sorry to say that Dalgarno Ward residents feel anxious and unsafe due to physical surroundings and specific situation created by our council. My residents live below the national average due to deprivation and high health inequalities. The top cases of death are heart disease, stroke, lung cancer, and chronic stress is a major contributing factor. The Council has ignored 7,000 signatures and allowed Dalgarno gas work development to go ahead with our MP accepting donation from one of the developers, refused to recognize an association set in a democratic way where the Labour councillor voted against its creation, privatized Council House Hall by leasing it to the Speed Theatre, which supposedly spends over 1 million on my community. I see next to nothing. Allowed one leaseholder to reconfigure her flat and Council House Grade 2 listed. Considered to build extension to a house located in Oxford Garden Conservation Area. Ignored countless reports of Traverton Street being a trip hazard where serious injuries occur daily. Sold canal closed without consultation. There is no one to collect rubbish. Handle easily Canalside House and Blueboat House to developers without our consultation. Keep selling properties bought after Grenfell with our money. Public purse, not divulging to whom, for how much and why. Offered £12 million to South Kensington Tube 3 steps. However, ignored completely Labrador Grove. Not a single councillor came forward to second my motion to make Ladbroke Grove tube-free, step-free, which is a little bit disappointing. Created a hostile environment for residents who challenged the council, ostracizing some by removing their flower pots from communal area, leaving much prominent ones, others, behind, favouring others by offering free garages, 2 parking spaces under Blue Badge, failed to deliver in Suffolk, broke many promises in regards to repairs, and broke City Living Local Life Fund rules by redirecting £6,000 of Dalgano funds without revised budget
Councillor.
to tourists of so-called charity. This anxiety is extended to democratically elected councillor, called without any reason by council officer, a racist
I'm sorry, this is now way over the time.
By the member of so-called ethic planners. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to Councillor Idris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. People of conscience, Sudanese, African, Arab, the Global South, and every human being who refuses to look away. I stand here today with only 2 minutes. So let me begin by saying something simple. 2 minutes is not enough to speak about the largest mass atrocity unfolding in the world today. It is not enough to speak for families displaced, cities erased, children starved, women violated, for a nation fighting for its very existence. But if all I have is 2 minutes, then I will use them to tell the truth. What is happening in Sudan is not a natural disaster. It is not a tragic accident. It is an engineered catastrophe driven by the RSF through looting, rape, execution, starvation, and the destruction of civilian life for profit. And the world knows it. The RSF is being financed through Sudanese gold, smuggled and laundered into clean revenue, while the international system looks away as Sudan is torn apart in real time. So, if I only have 2 minutes, then let me say this clearly. No one can claim to oppose genocide and still pretend Sudan is invisible. And to Sudanese everywhere inside the country, across the region, and throughout the diaspora, we may not have time, we may not have platforms, we may not have global attention, but we do have each other. And in a national survival moment, unity is not optional. So I will use my 2 minutes for 3 simple truths. Sudan will not be erased, Sudanese lives are not disposable, and Sudanese destiny will not be written by those who profit from our suffering. If the world will not give Sudan the time it deserves, then we will use every second we are given and turn it into a demand for justice, dignity, and survival.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'm raising a matter on behalf of my residents in Holland Ward who are becoming increasingly anxious about crime in their area, particularly following the recent burglaries on Addison Road and Napier Close. These incidents have left people feeling unsettled in their own homes, and residents have made it very clear the impact is having on their day-to-day sense of security. And naturally, they want to know that their safety is being treated as a priority. Their concerns have also been heightened by the Mayor of London's plans for Kensington Police Station, in particular the decision to remove the 24-hour front counter. Although the station itself will remain open, taking away its round-the-clock access feels to residents like a step back from the visible and reachable policing they've had in the past. Especially with this coming so soon after the closure of the entire Notting Hill Police Station in the north, it is understandably added to their unease. Johnny, Aryan and I have all been meeting and speaking with residents over the recent months to understand what would genuinely help them feel safer. We've explained that one option available to them as the community is the CCTV bid through ENSIL, and we are supporting residents as they consider whether this is the right approach and where a camera might have the greatest deterrent effect. We're also exploring whether gating Napier Close could be viable, given the small number of homes it serves and the fact that burglars are using the low roofs where they can access the back of properties from Addison Road. Through all our meetings, residents have been working with us to identify what will make the real difference to them and to their community, and they have set out very plainly what they need to feel secure in their homes. They are not asking for anything unreasonable, they simply want to feel safe at home, and to know that the council and the police are standing with them as they try to achieve that. Thank you.
Councillor Zvedeniuk.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about our high streets because they're a deeply important part of Kensington and Chelsea, and they're not just places where we shop, they're a social heart of our communities. And Christmas is a time where the high street really comes alive, where carols are sung, Christmas markets pop up, and we see festive lighting and wonderful decorations and Christmas trees, including several on the World's End Plaza. If anyone is around, do have a look. It's a real testament to this council that we have such impressive high streets. And that is the result of being a pro-business council. From our support for alfresco dining to pedestrianising areas like Pavilion Road to transforming Sloane Street, widening pavement, these things are all really important. Unfortunately, though, many residents are increasingly concerned about the impact government policy will have on their local business. No sector has been hurt harder by Labour's onslaught on enterprise than hospitality, retail and leisure. Since last year's budget, over 89,000 jobs have been lost in the hospitality sector alone, and astonishingly, at a time when most of us are campaigning to save British pubs, including a few pubs sadly sitting empty in Chelsea, Labour's raid on business has meant some pubs will see their bills rise by 140% or more. And that is why the Conservative Party announced that we would completely abolish business rates for many of our high street shops so that we can all continue to enjoy them and see them thrive. This council already has a great success rate when it comes to working with private local business. So in the face of growing pressure on our shops, I urge RBKC to do whatever it is they can do to protect our high streets from this Labour government. In particular, I'd welcome any plans to revitalise the western part of the King's Road along Chelsea Riverside, as has been done closer to Sloane Square. And we must support local wealth creation, not punish it, so that we can ensure RBKC remains a place full of the vibrant high streets that we know and love. Thank you.
Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an issue of local concern from North Kensington, that this council is beyond repair and out of control. Regrettably, and despite my best efforts to conclude otherwise, I'm talking about a failure of governance and of local democracy at the hands of this Grenfell leadership, which harms and disadvantages the residents of North Kensington, both within this council and within the wards. What is the point of residents in North Kensington electing councillors to represent them here, in a council which does not respect their mandate? Residents need to be able to rely on their ward councillors being kept honestly, comprehensively and proactively informed by officers and leadership about matters affecting where they live. Yet far too often this does not happen. Too often we are kept in the dark until after the fact. Little deals being done and discussions being had about our North Kensington assets that we, the elected members, are not privy to, perhaps. Meddling in our communities behind our backs, causing division, perhaps. Too often I have been given incorrect or incomplete information, preventing me from properly representing the interests of my constituents. I have been told untruths to my face and in writing by senior officers. No one seems to think that that's a big deal, but I do. I have even been phoned up by an impartial officer delivering a political threat to the Labour group on behalf of the leadership should we vote against a particular report? Yes, you shall have it. What kind of council is this? It's like Councillor Blakeman at the Grenfell inquiry saying, as she told residents so often, they don't listen to me, they don't tell me anything. She was silenced, belittled and undermined in her work.
Please conclude,
This continues to be the situation for non-majority councillors at this council. And it's worse because now we're actively being given faulty information. It's a disgrace. I understand you don't want to hear this.
Sorry, there's a number of allegations.
I understand you don't want to hear this, but it is true.
I really think this
and
is
I
unfair.
will simply say, I have already raised these matters with Councillor Campbell and with Maxine.
Okay, thank you.
So I would like to know what is anyone going to do about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to move on now to item 14, which is motions. Members will see we have 6 motions printed in the agenda. We certainly won't get to all of them, but we will get cracking with motion 1. Motion 1 is about RBKC becoming a borough of sanctuary. With members' consent, we will use the altered text on page 9 of the second set of additional papers. Do you agree? Would Councillor Dent Code formally move the motion, and Councillor Ahmed please second?
I beg to move, Mr. Mayor.
And I beg to second, thank you.
I now invite Councillor Dent Code to speak for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm so sorry that former Mayor Will Lane isn't here because I dedicated this to him. Many of us will remember with great warmth the speech of the outgoing mayor in May, which moved me to give him a standing ovation, probably the first time I've ever awarded that recognition to any mayor or indeed to any Conservative councillor. His speech represented the best of us on this council. That moment prompted me to move this motion, especially at a time of rising racism and in particular anti-migrant rhetoric and actions. One particular far-right anti-migrant group, UKIP, led by Nick Tanconi, who was filmed making a Nazi salute, gathered near Knightsbridge in June. Thankfully, the turnout was poor. However, we cannot be complacent. A young black man approached me recently in Ladbroke Grove, where he was born and raised, to tell me that he'd been exposed to racist abuse in the street for the first time in his life. This is too close for comfort, and as we approach the local elections, the potential dangers are all too clear. As Reform sniffs around Chelsea for any signs of support for potential electoral candidates, it's time for the Council to stand up for the principles that, despite our many political differences, we know it has always maintained. An increasing 54% of our residents are not white British born. They make up every shade of the beautiful tapestry that makes up our communities. We celebrate religious festivals and commemorations with our friends and neighbours. We show respect and we honour difference, and long may that prevail. But we need to step up to counter rising hate, and that moment is now. The utter nonsense of certain political commentators relating to being British, the growing intolerance among some factions to cultural distinctiveness, and particularly anti-migrant protests that we've been spared so far, are a threat to the way of life we see as normal in Kensington Chelsea. Our borough's motto, which celebrates unity, is in Latin. Our coat of arms, a legacy of French hierarchies. The very word for democracy is Greek. Our monarchy is German, and our current state religion originated in Palestine. We eat the cuisine of countless countries just a few steps away from the council building. There are no indigenous Brits. When the ice sheets retreated 20,000 years ago, there was no human life here at all. The first arrivals walked across the Doggerland land bridge from France before it was claimed by the sea. You may know that the oldest skeleton found on our island, the 9,000-year-old Cheddar Man, was dark-skinned with blue eyes. Every one of us is descended from a glorious cocktail of settlers, invaders, migrants, and those fleeing danger and persecution elsewhere, and in years to come from climate change. Mr. Mayor, applying to become a borough of sanctuary would not be a huge stretch for this council, despite the odd bad apple, as we know, among this council. Among migrant and refugee supporting local voluntary organisations, they know them to be generally accommodating to new arrivals, and we will welcome Sudanese refugees, more of them, of course, in due course if they need to come here. Sadly, it's true that we're in a situation where many in society are being indoctrinated to blame all the ills of the world on more recent migrants and refugees. The normalisation of racism and protests at migrant hotels must be countered. So I'm asking our council to acknowledge the pain felt by so many of our residents and reaffirm our commitment to inclusivity and diversity, reach out to the communities impacted by rising hatred and offer them support, and to work with existing groups to boost and improve our support services. As we approach Christmas and the season of good cheer, I hope the Council will join together to stop the normalisation of racist anti-migrant views and draw a red line against rising hatred. In that light, I'd like to quote Rabbi Yehuda Bauer, a Czech-Israeli historian who spoke at the opening of the new German Bundestag in 1998. I come from a people, he said, who gave the 10 Commandments to the world. The time has come to strengthen them by 3 additional ones, which we ought to adopt and commit ourselves to. Thou shalt not be a perpetrator, thou shalt not be a victim, and thou shalt never, but never be a bystander. Let's stand together on this to be the best council we can be and confirm our commitment to inclusivity by becoming a borough of sanctuary. Thank you.
Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Ahmed, would you like to speak?
If it's all right, I'm going to use a little bit of my time beforehand just to extend my support and solidarity to Councillor Idris for her intervention earlier. I felt it deeply, not just because I'm Egyptian, a next-door neighbour, but I think Sudan is yet another stark example of how the lives of black and brown people are rendered disposable by global structures that fail to respond to mass atrocities unless it's politically convenient. So thank you, I really appreciated it. Back to home. So becoming a borough of sanctuary isn't just a symbolic gesture. It's an opportunity for this council to define who we are and what we've learned, particularly in the years since the Grenfell disaster. The Grenfell inquiry laid bare in painful detail what happens when people's voices are unheard and when trust between residents and institutions breaks down. We learned that safety, dignity and belonging are not abstract ideas but matters of life and death. The inquiry reminds us that our responsibility as a borough goes beyond providing services. It's about listening, valuing every resident and ensuring that no one feels invisible in the place that they call home. And yet the data shows that we still have work to do. The 2021 Kensington and Chelsea Foundation report highlighted that loneliness and isolation remain serious mental health problems in our borough and reported that Kensington and Chelsea has been, for over a decade, in the bottom 5% of local authorities nationwide when it comes to residents' sense of belonging, and that those who feel the least sense of belonging are also those who have the least trust in their local area. That is not a statistic we can accept as inevitable. It reflects, as local charities have pointed out, the deep inequalities that run through our community, inequalities that divide neighbours who live just streets apart. These gaps in wealth, in opportunity and in trust contribute to a breakdown of community life. Becoming a borough of sanctuary gives us a framework to respond not only to the needs of refugees, asylum seekers and migrants, but to the broader challenge of this sense of belonging. It asks us to build a culture of welcome, to work in partnership with local charities, faith groups, schools and residents to make inclusion a daily practice as opposed to merely slogans and tokenism. We've seen the difference that this can make elsewhere. We can look to Islington as a practical example. There, the council has distributed £500,000 in local grants to community-led projects supporting asylum seekers and migrants. But crucially, those grants were awarded by panels that included people who have been through the experience of seeking sanctuary themselves. That model of participation builds empowerment, voice, and genuine social inclusion. In Lewisham, the Borough of Sanctuary strategy has been explicitly designed to shift institutional attitudes, embed cultural change in their council, and give refugees and asylum seekers a more visible place in civic life. That formal commitment has made welcome not just has made welcoming not just an aspiration, but a measurable expectation, one that has reshaped how their local services engage with residents and strengthened the borough's social fabric. The Council of Sanctuary's own strategy shows why this matters. It highlights that when people seeking sanctuary are supported to integrate and participate fully, the benefits ripple outwards, creating more vibrant civic life, a diverse and skilled workforce, improved cultural understanding, and stronger community networks that enrich the lives of all residents. There is also another benefit that is especially relevant here in Kensington. Being a borough of sanctuary introduces accountability, both the City of Sanctuary network and to our residents. It requires us to measure progress, to listen, and to demonstrate transparency in our actions. Given the mistrust that still exists towards this council that's undeniable, this is an important and positive step towards rebuilding confidence. It shows we're willing not only to say the right words, but to hold ourselves accountable to them. As Councillor Dent-Cote has said, Kensington and Chelsea is already home to people from every corner of the world. Over half of our residents were born outside of the UK, and our diversity is our greatest asset. We've shown generosity before, welcoming people displaced by conflict in Ukraine, and the step this council can take today is to move from generosity to commitment, and to make that welcome more systemic and sustainable and measurable. Thank you.
I will now open the motion up to debate. Councillor Hammond.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm very grateful. And at the heart of this motion, and I'm particularly thinking about the first three bullets of the list, is something I could support. And I did my very best in the summer to come up with an amendment to the motion that I could vote for. And I think the lead member and the chief whip will know what extensive efforts we went through to attempt to create an amendment to the motion. And I am grateful to my friends Councillor Dorian and Councillor Lane, who sadly can't be here, who helped with that effort. I mean, looking at those first three bullets with a few amendments to the words, I think we can agree that creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for law-abiding and families seeking sanctuary is definitely something that the borough does and should do. I think collaboration and partnership with community groups and charities working together to provide resources and support, again, that's something that we can and should continue doing. And indeed, I might just mention that my ward is the site of the only two Home Office hotels in the borough. So I do have some personal experience of these hotels, and they haven't caused any trouble at all in the time, unlike some of the terrible reports we've received from elsewhere in the country. And our residents are taking a very balanced view of these hotels in my experience. And of course, we'd all rather they weren't needed, but nevertheless, they aren't causing the trouble we've seen elsewhere. Going back to the bullets, I will pick up the third bullet. So I think ensuring access to essential services on a fair basis, providing language support when required, and promoting mutual cultural understanding for the cases while they're being assessed by the Home Office, and indeed afterwards if individuals are given leave to remain. I think all of those things are issues that I would be very comfortable signing us up to as a borough, and I'd be happy to vote for. Unfortunately, it then came to the fourth bullet, and it's the City of Sanctuary. And this is a movement, and I did try to do some research onto City of Sanctuary, but it seems to be quite a shadowy movement that originates in the United States. It's not clear who funds it, particularly. There's an investigative journalist called Charlotte Gill who's done quite a lot of work on this, and she certainly didn't fill me with any confidence in terms of what I've seen from her work. And this organisation doesn't seem to believe in national borders at all, and I just don't think that that's the kind of thing of organisation that without a lot more knowledge I would be comfortable voting to sign up for. So having removed that bullet from my amendment, and then of course the phrase Borough of Sanctuary appears in loads of other places in the report, in the motion as well. That was a major change. And then when we have a few minor changes as well, so agree with Councillor Dent-Code that Councillor Lane's speech, his outgoing mayor's speech, was a tremendous speech. I didn't think it was an extraordinary speech because Councillor Lane's speeches are all good. So I changed it from extraordinary to excellent speech, but it's another change. And then when we had the list of other boroughs which are doing this, well, I didn't think we needed to be compared with other boroughs. We are trying to set ourselves up as the best council, but a list of London boroughs that includes Sandwell, which I think is near Birmingham, probably doesn't belong. There would need to be another change in there. So by the time I've made all of those changes, unfortunately my amendment wasn't accepted by officers as being an acceptable change because the motion didn't look much like the original, despite having the three bullets at the heart of it. So I do rather regret that because I would like to have proposed an amendment and got it through. And then the other issue with this is costs that I think we need to talk about. So are there any costs associated with this? There must be, and we heard from the seconder about costs from another borough and lots of grants. And at a time of some very significant impending budget cuts on our borough imposed by the government, I just don't think we can take on any new non-statutory statutory task, and therefore I'm afraid I have to vote against the motion.
Councillor Jedit, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a few comments. In time of care as a hire to Blair, with a Tory being complacent, borders are being dismantled. Mass immigration is eroding our culture and destroying our economy. Free speech is being shut down. Our children are indoctrinating in school. Dangerous criminals walk free, whereas abiding citizens are punished for what they say and believe. The courts are politicized, as we can know. The police is compromised. Our universities are hotbeds for radical ideology. Wealth distribution has replaced wealth creation. As we are the nation are facing more than less existential threat, our veterans have been ignored, struggling with many disappearing due to lack of proper tracking of veteran suicides. Those who expose grooming gangs, rape, making documentary are gagged and jailed. In times of 26 billion tax rising rate on ordinary people, record tax, record debts decline, those entering our country should be detained, held, and deported. Most recently, Green-Red Alliance has been formed, channeling more than less globalist ideology. And those who try to challenge are called fascist, Nazi, Islamophobes, racist, abusing their human right to express their views without fear of being prosecuted or even jailed. We know that some go to jail because they posted something on Twitter. We simply cannot accept unknown individuals coming to our shores on small boats. We don't know their past. Some of them were involved in criminality with genocide against humanity crimes. We know very well about a huge number of Yazidi girls disappearing and being raped. Up to this day, never returned to families. Question is, who is this lady who created, or as one of our council said, we really don't know what organization it's, who sponsors that. So I believe that we should not give in to the leftist Marxist globalist ideology. As a council, we are independent. We already have on board organizations which work with refugees. Our officers work, and obviously we are doing a good job. We have taken many from Ukraine, and we have taken many from different parts of the world. And I don't think that should be signing agreement because we are meant to sign a pledge with this organization. It's a small print there, and we need to do exactly what this organization is telling us to do. So it's more or less for us as a council being not party bound. We are signing up something with an organization which is very, very leftist, and this has to be pointed out. This lady says here, we must together stand firm in our commitment to welcome, no matter how refugees came. So more or less, she is supporting illegal entries of those individuals who might be members of ISIS, Daesh, Boko Haram, Hamas, Hezbollah, you name it, and those are not tracked. We don't know who they are not fingerprinted. And she's encouraging a clear breach of Illegal Migration Act 2023 and Immigration Act 1971, 25 by 2(1), a person knowingly harboring anyone whom he knows or has reasonably cause to believe to be an illegal entrant shall be guilty of an offence. So I don't think we as a council should be signing up to an organization who is encouraging breaking the law. I can understand that there are places in the world, and I can say, I look at what Poland has done. When one person was attacked viciously, the girl was killed, immediately Poles closed the border with Germany, with Lithuania, to protect own citizens. Your citizens, charity starts at home. We are responsible to our residents. We cannot help everybody. That's reality. Maybe it's cruel, but that's reality. We cannot help everybody. Thank you.
Would any other member wish to speak on this motion? Councillor Zvedeniak.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly correct something that Councillor Dent-Code said. She commented saying that our current state religion originated in Palestine. Our current state religion or Christianity originated in the Roman-occupied Kingdom of Judea, and as a point of principle, I don't think it's helpful to rewrite history in order to make a political point. And then obviously on the motion, I can't support it because I believe in national borders and a controlled and fair asylum system.
Councillor Wade.
I agreed that Will Lane's speech was extraordinary. It was inclusive, it was compassionate, and I think it was an extraordinary example of how we could live together. But I think that we have to, and Councillor Hammond and Courtfield and Earls Court do have similarities insofar as we had 5 asylum hotels, which I might say were appallingly run and did require a lot of support for those individuals. And I agree that it does cost. But I think that we should be looking at the companies like Clear Springs that have made millions out of asylum seekers and treated them appallingly. So perhaps if we wish to continue, we should revise the contract with these type of companies. Thank you.
Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd really like to thank Councillor Hammond for his excellent and very thorough analysis.
My apologies. I forgot that you are summarising this debate, Councillor McVeigh. So in which case, I'll go to Councillor Lowry first, and then I'll come back to you. My apologies. Councillor Lowry.
Just to counter what Councillor Jeddett was saying, the fact that Britain is a Christian country means that we are by default a more tolerant country. Because we are a more tolerant country because we are a Christian country. My family is quite unique because amongst my first cousins, I have Christians, Jews, and Muslims by virtue of where my background is mixed between Iran and Germany. And they all testify that the fact that we are a Christian country means that we're more tolerant. And race relations in this country are much better than they are in continental Europe. I know you mentioned Poland. And I do think, however, that this motion, which I will be voting in favour of, is compatible with a national border system. I know that Councillor Hammond raised concerns with the organisation involved, but the principle of the motion of tolerance and equal access to services and respect, I think, are values we can definitely get behind. So I personally have, upon consideration, decided to support this. And I don't think either the comments made by yourself or Councillor Zvedeniak should preclude you from supporting this motion either.
Would any other member wish to speak? No, sorry, Councillor. Councillor, we now move on. I now invite Councillor McVeigh as the lead member to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes. Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will say again a huge thank you to Councillor Hammond for his very thorough analysis of the motion and working with Councillor Aderan and Councillor Lane as well on this, I believe. And he sums it up so well that the principles of everything that's mentioned in here, we all agree with. You know, we are a welcoming borough, but it's the concept of a city and a borough of sanctuary is what we have differences about. Because, as I said, we're already a welcoming place, and the motion actually says that we're already a welcoming place. In the past, we've welcomed the Windrush generation. More recently, we've welcomed the Afghans and the Ukrainians. And they've all been here, and they've all been very welcomed here. And people of this borough are caring, decent individuals. So, Mr. Mayor, fundamentally, we do not need this motion. It is a term that has no teeth and no authority in the UK. It is just words, and we as a borough prefer action, as we have already done over the many years. And this, I'm afraid, this motion, it just reeks of kind of virtue signalling and ideology over actually getting things done and not being subject to a history lesson. And this is what this administration is really focusing on. We are acting and supporting our local residents. And they can be local residents from all over the world. I hear what you're saying, Councillor Larian, and completely agree with that. But as we heard earlier from our leader and from our CEO, that the really important thing we're dealing with today is the ramifications of the cyber incidents and the important impact that this has on services for our residents. So sitting here tonight and hearing details about this motion, it just makes me rather frustrated that the opposition is so obsessed with putting this forward, of those who can actually be bothered to turn up, the handful that are here in this chamber tonight. I mean, I think we have only 4 Labour members here and we have a handful of opposition members, which is incredibly disappointing, and it rather shows where the priorities lie in representing your residents. But it certainly is not in this chamber tonight. So, fundamentally, we are focused on our residents, and we will not be supporting becoming a borough of sanctuary, but we are supporting being a very welcoming and open borough. Thank you.
Councillor Dent-Coad, as mover of the motion, would you like to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I thought. Thank you, Councillor Hammond, for all your very positive comments. As you know, this is the season of good cheer, and I'm just a bit disappointed. I mean, from what I know about the City of Sanctuary, I haven't heard any of the rumours you may have heard about potential dodgy sponsorship. But you know, we could have discussed this beforehand. I could possibly have found out, because if there is such a thing, then I certainly wouldn't have supported it either, depending on who is sponsoring it. But you don't know. So we are basically 3/4 of the way there, but as usual with this council, they just don't want to go that little bit further, which is disappointing. I don't think I can comment politely about the comments that we've heard from behind me here, Mr. Mayor, but I don't think any of us would support illegals, criminals, etc. coming in, and we have borders, and we have very physical borders here, and that's we have borders, and otherwise we wouldn't even have to have a conversation about this. People could just come and go. So that is absolutely out of order and out of the scope of this motion altogether. I do think it's a shame. I think it would be fantastic if the council would get on board with this. I'd like to do a bit of background on the funding of the Borough Sanctuary movement, because from what I know, it's certainly not. It's not sponsored by anybody dodgy, but I would definitely find out about that. And I do agree with Councillor Wade that where there are vulnerable people, there are people making an awful lot of money of them, and the few who do come over by boat are being financially pillaged, and Clear Springs are also mopping up, and it's absolutely disgusting that vulnerable people are being used as units of profit, really, absolutely disgraceful. So I am disappointed that we're not going to go the whole hog. I'm very glad to hear, as always, that we're all on the same page among a lot of things. And yeah, I've always said when the council does good, I would commend them. So 3/4, 3/4 of the way there. As for all the religious things I've been hearing, you know, we've got, I used to be a Catholic a long time ago, I'm not anymore, but we've had 2 great popes, and Pope Leo, who's amazing and embraces the refugees and war-torn countries, and good for him. And that's what we should go forward in this at this time as we approach Christmas, which most religions celebrate in one way or another. So disappointed that we're not going the whole way, Mr. Mayor, but I'm glad we managed to end on a fairly positive note. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I now put the motion to the vote. Would those for the motion please show? Would those against the motion please show? Are there any abstentions? I declare the motion not carried. I'll now look to the whips. No, I assume no intention to extend the time of the meeting. In which case, we proceed to item 15, appointments to committees and outside organisations. One change is in the second set of additional papers. Do the group whips have any further amendments to propose? No. In which case, is the appointment approved? Yep. I declare that appointment approved. Item 16, urgent business. There is no urgent business. This concludes the business of this evening's meeting of the Council. The next meeting of the Council is scheduled to be held on the 28th of January 2026, starting at 6:30 p.m. I wish you all a good evening and a very Merry Christmas.